Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Good afternoon, good evening, folks, and welcome to our post-match E-Tims podcast. I'm Desi, and I'm glad to say at the moment, filling his face with, as far as I know, sweets, I think, is Hector Bandido, our resident tactician. And what is it we're eating today? Refreshers?
Drumstick refreshers.
Drumsticks, the classic. Somebody's been to Poundland in Bishop Briggs Industrial Estate again. Well done. Yes, so we're coming to you guys. Thanks very much for joining, Hector, and also thanks to everyone for listening. Before we start, I have a shout out to make to Mr. Ross Healy, who accosted me in a toilet to say that he would like a shout out because we've already given his younger brother one. So Ross Healy, this show is dedicated to yourself, and if anyone else would like a shout out, feel free to pull up any of the E-Tims team in a toilet, and I'm sure we'll make sure we give you a mention.
Is that a regular occurrence, Desi? You get accosted?
Is this where we find our clientele? This happens to be.
Well, speak for yourself.
The luck of the draw. Really. So again, this is for Ross, and again, thanks to everyone for listening. And again, we hope to have a chat after the semi-final, or even round about the semi-final. But Hector, you've been away working, I think, for is it the Barra Tourist Board you were working for?
The Outer Hebrides Tourist Board. We were off the second week of Easter, so my wife and I went up. Kids are getting older now, which is great. We went up the second time, so we had a great time. A big shout out, you're saying there for the other guy, but Eriskay FC. If anyone gives a Google on BBC or FIFA, I think the FIFA made them number 8. Place to go and see football in the world a few years ago. It's a cracking article, and if you see it, you want to go. And by the way, seeing you're there, it's even better. So Eriskay, Barra, South Uist, folks, get your arses up there. It's magic. Beaches to die for. And I know it's Scottish water and what it's called, but it's the beaches, the people. It's magic. It's magic.
Yeah, and you did. The beer seemed to be quite cool, and the food seemed to be quite lovely. I believe you had to stay over another night also.
Well, what it is there's a flight from Glasgow Airport to Barra. It lands in Barra's Beach, and it's the only they've pitched it well. It's the only commercial beach runway in the world. So folk with private jets will go to private islands, but it's actually a commercial flight, and we got the flight there okay. But coming back, if the plane, it's only a 15 or 18 seater, can't land, the visit, it's a proper pilot, kind of flying. There's not all this kind of electronic gadgetry. If they can't, it's brilliant. There's a hill not far from the airport, and the rule of thumb is that if they can't see the top of the hill, they can't land. So it's coming in, and you hear it, and it's circling, and it couldn't land. We're going, oh, for fuck's sake. So, but the good news is, it gave us an extra night, so we jumped on the ferry back to Eriskay. Some great people in Barra as well. But it was magic. So an extra night. And so we get back at 4:00 last Sunday as the cup final was on, and I think it was extra time. I'm a jinx when I come back. But as I didn't see it, it was interesting last Sunday reading all the stuff, because you didn't see it, you're a wee bit more detached from it. So seeing all these people, no, it's the end of the world. He must go, he's shite, he must go, and it's like, and you've not seen it, so you're quite detached and going, fucking mental, all this mob, realising quite quickly that tends to be me after a defeat on Twitter. So then
I was very much last week, and again, thanks for bearing with us, folks. That has now been the official Barra Tourist, the Outer Hebrides Corporation Tourist piece. But yeah, so last week's game, we'll just touch on it briefly. As you say, you kind of missed it. You were lucky enough to miss it. I think most of the Celtic team missed it. I know, to be honest. I just sat and watched it in total disbelief. It was just one of the non-events, like one of the crazy games where nothing seems to happen. And you're watching it going, and even the goal, it was like, and then it was like, this is just a weird experience. And then in the game when they scored, it was like, how did we not manage to shut the game out? And that's kind of brought on something quite strange. I think apparently Beaton, your favourite player, Beaton, the rumours going about are that he's out for the rest of the season now.
Right.
And again, I didn't want to say it in case it took as being petty. But I saw him, I think him and Abada went down to the Man City. I can't remember who Man City were playing recently. Who were they playing in one of the European games?
Was it Atletico Madrid?
Might have been that. So I think maybe they were doing visiting that, and that looked as if they were getting a wee, because I think Jota went to the Liverpool-Benfica game the same week. And that way you're like, oh, that's good, they're getting to relax. And then it came to that Sunday game. And then subsequent to the day's game, a lot of people, especially Ralph, were a bit concerned we didn't have a kind of ball-holding, kill-the-game kind of midfielder. I know James McCarthy could be that guy, but he's not really proven it yet for us.
Still getting a chance.
So then the rumours were going to do it today that Anne said he's got a slight tweak, but somebody, I think it's a huddle board have been talking about he's maybe out for the rest of the season. But that's by. So last week we should have closed that game out one way or another. But we just seemed to lose our way altogether. And it was remember the Peter Lovenkrantz style finals we used to have against McLeish?
Yeah. It
was one of the games where they just broke up the flanks, cut the ball in the middle, and your defenders are facing their own goal. I know your favourite player, Starfelt, was maybe accredited with the last touch, but there's nothing he could do really. He's just chasing Sakala, and there's nothing we could do. But it was just one of the terrible. This never turned up to a man. I don't know if it's too long off. No, as if we were on a downward spiral instead of coming up and ready to go.
And sometimes it's attitude, and you know, managers like Savage and others, people wear their bands like Guardiola and Klopp and all that. They all consistently say that, right? They've got the best players on the planet, but ultimately attitudes 9/10 to how it is. And if the attitude's not right, for a multitude of reasons, they'll say the same things, they'll prep the same way, they'll go through the team the same way, the strengths and weaknesses in opposition, how he wants to play, the tempo he wants, the pace he wants. And he'll say all these things repeat every week. But no matter what.
Wait, something's happened.
No matter what.
Hold on.
We can hear you.
Sorry, folks, that's Ralph interrupted. That's Ralph arriving 10 minutes late and talking to his dogs again, actually realising that Hector's given a big overview of how a manager's mind works.
Well, I was just saying that sometimes teams, no matter who they are, they lose games, right?
Hello?
They lose games.
Yeah, Ralph, we can hear you.
It's Tom Jolly, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't worry, Ralph. We can't see you, thankfully, but we can hear you, Ralph. Hopefully can you hear us, Ralph? Yeah,
Right, I can hear you now.
It's like
put your video off, Ralph. Put your video off.
Like Ken Dodd, he's outside
Turn the Wi-Fi.
It's like, he's stalled again. Aye, so that was interesting. I thought, to be honest, I thought a wee bit, I know Bobby Madden had a big factor in last week's game, but I think Ange was a wee bit kind of outfought in both pronunciations last week. I think Van Bronckhorst went basically killed the midfield one way or another, killed that midfield, and we just didn't have the outball in Giacomakis, and we still resorted to putting it, and nobody could win it. No, that
I never seen it, but a question I've got, I never seen it, so because I was away, as you know, but the question I had was this, and I read a lot of the comments from almost every Celtic fan consistently said the same thing. It's what I was scratching my head about is, they played on the Thursday night, they played extra time, they had a tough game, we had all the time off, yet it appeared to be us that ran out of steam. Was that right?
We were totally flat. Nobody could get in, there was no adrenaline in the whole team.
Weird, isn't it? Really weird.
I don't know, isn't that why they never get into first gear, let alone into second gear. It was a strange kind of game. It was like remember the game a couple of years ago where Rodgers, it was in the New Year's game, Rodgers played McGregor at left back, and then there was subsequent rumours about his having like food poisoning or whatever, or like injuries throughout the squad, everybody was ill. It was like one of the games whereby we just never turned up and everybody was going at half pace, there was no urgency. McGregor was trying to get people rallied, but this wasn't there. It was weird as anything. So Ralph, can you hear us now? Are you with us?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That game last week, it just looked like everybody was waiting for somebody to do something. And you've seen them maybe footer about this season, and until things are right, and then they kick in gear. But it never happened, although to be fair, Madden did stop a couple of promising moves. But you can't blame him, because it shouldn't make any difference if we're in full flow. I didn't think we'd lose that game all the way through to the end. I thought sooner or later we'd do something, but we didn't.
No. But you hinted at something there, and this is basically, Ralph, we've come to this point where we're talking about the fact that Beaton was missing a day, and you were a wee bit worried we were going to be a wee bit lightweight today, and I was saying it looks like Beaton's out for the rest of the season, etc. But a lot of people were saying that, Hector, especially the physicality of your team.
Yep.
And one thing that was missing, but one thing that was present today, i.e. the exact opposite of last week, was passing and moving. But it was like, especially Maeda and Kyogo together, the way they passed the ball and moved to go and get the return ball was absolutely right. Hatati took a lot of abuse last week. You see, when you watch him, he tries to move the ball as quickly as possible. And sometimes it's this, like, I know he did lose the ball a lot of times in the second half of the day, but a lot of at least he's trying these things, if you know what I mean. Like, last week he was trying them, a lot of people weren't. But today, the movement and the passing was the exact opposite of what we saw, or what we did not see last week.
But remember, Desi, there's also the quality. There's also the quality opposition. Quality opposition you're playing against, right? So Ross County's defence in midfield compared to over at Ibrox, it's chalk cheese, right? They're playing against a better player who'll close you down quicker, who know the tricks of the game, right? I've never seen it, but I've read it, and you can imagine. So I'm always mindful of that. But see, Hatati, today's game against Ross County is an example of it. First half we're coasting with it. It could have been 3-4 up at half time. Which did take our chances. The second half, it's a regular pattern, unfortunately. It's happening far too often where two of the three midfielders, and it tends to be Hatati, O'Reilly or Rogic, tend to fall out the game. And it means McGregor's carrying the load. But what I would say, having said all that, I think we've got to just be patient with O'Reilly and Hatati. They come in January, let them get the pre-season this summer with Ange behind them, right? And I think next season we'll see them really push on. But there's a pattern. We cannot see it. McGregor's carrying the load. What I'd like to see Ange do, and I know he won't do it, right? I'd love to see him just say, look, if Beatles do it, put McCarthy in at 6 the last half hour and push McGregor on one. And to me that solves a multitude of problems. Gives us physicality, experience, and lets McGregor dictate the game high up the pitch. Instead, we seem to be playing with 9 players too often, for the last half hour or something like that. It's a bit frustrating. I know he made the subs, and what was it he did? He did O'Reilly off and Rogic came on. Tam struggled the first 10 minutes, he came on. Then he took off Hatati for Turnbull. He put Hatati off for Turnbull.
That was 10 minutes later.
I just think, I just think we're all getting a wee bit nervous. We're close to the finishing line. We just want to see if they put that in. But I think if we just be patient with these guys, we'll see them, I think, really push on next season, these guys. Yeah,
one of the interesting quotes on our WhatsApp chat, Ralph, was you saying it was the ref booking, I think it was the Callaghan, get booked in the first 5 minutes or whatever. And that actually helped kind of Celtic, if you know what I mean, compared to last week when there was no protection.
If you look at it, there was a foul in the first couple of minutes in McGregor, and he didn't get booked for that. And then 2 minutes later, he went through somebody else, and he got booked. Well, that tells the players that the referee's not standing for it. And it means as well as that he's walking a tightrope for the rest of the game. So if that had happened last week, we'd have seen an entirely different game. There was another booking later on in, was it, can't remember the player's name, but it was on Joe Hart. He stood in front of him. Yeah, he stood in front of him at a goal kick, which you can't do. That's a booking. Lundstrom did that last week. So is this just going to be put down to Madden having a bad game, or is it them and I say by them I mean the SFA or the brothers at the lodge? Is this them evening it out now?
Can I come in on that?
Yeah.
An interesting one, right? So not all refs, even at the top level, officiate the same way. And what I mean by that is that some refs will let more physical play go than others. If you watch Madden, and for several years now, I think Madden, this won't surprise anyone, I think Madden played to sort of junior level. Scottish. He's one of the few refs I think that played, most of our accountants or whatever, never kicked a ball in their puff. He's played to junior. So I think he's actually, he understands the game a bit better. But the downside is, Madden tends to let more physical play go, and he's always done that. So, if we're doing our scouting reports on referees, which remember Rodgers used to do that, all the players on Monday with the dossier for who their opponents were the next week, and the referees, Madden's one to say he lets the more physical challenges go. We should adapt to that. And I wish we'd be more cute, more streetwise at times, I think, with that.
No, I agree with that. But if you look at there was a booking not given for the technicality. You don't stand in front of a keeper at a goal kick. That's an automatic booking. I don't know, I think that's air ambulance. Celtic TV, I watched it on, so I'm not 100% sure if the guy knows the absolute rules. But apparently, if you stand in front of a goalkeeper when he's taking a free kick, that's an automatic yellow card. It didn't happen last week. It did this week. So one of the referees is wrong. That's not about style. That's simply about the rules.
Yeah. So today's game then, Desi, come on, what's your thoughts?
No. What I was going to say, so that kind of brings me back to the physicality aspect. Do we know who the referee is from next weekend's game yet? Has that been announced?
They tend to do
Van Bronckhorst, I think.
Aye. Van Bronckhorst. They tend to do it early by about Monday or Tuesday.
All right. So I know again. I was going to say the physicality, because that was a big concern after last week. And I was saying the whole point is you've got to pass and move the ball quickly enough that if they can't reach you, then they can't hit you. I mean, the ball's away, so the referee have no option but to give free kick and yellow cards if the ball's already moved away. And we were doing that today. That was a massive big difference. See, like that first half of the day, like that, the goal is a beautiful goal, and like Jota cutting back and forth and moving that defender, then swinging a beautiful ball in. Kyogo hovering in the air, and a lot of people were saying it was a Larsson-esque style header. But it's the fact he he hovers for like maybe that 1 second, but it looks like it's forever, and then he heads around the bottom corner. But before the ball gets to Jota, we did really well bringing the ball out in like wee short triangles, and your top left hand corner, bring it up to the halfway line. Then McGregor sprays it, I think, or down to Jota. So that was great to see that football again. It was great to see it, because that was a bit of a concern. Would we go into our shell after last week? Would the pressure actually get to us? And we didn't seem to be under any pressure whatsoever. We came out, as they say, out of the traps flying. And that was really good to see, was it not?
It was better to see. But again, Ross County didn't flood the midfield the same way that Rangers did last week. And like Hector says, we need to fight fire with fire if it's going to come down to that, because we haven't in the last couple of 3 games against them. Even though we've got results.
You didn't have Giacomakis. That's what you missed a bit of saying. Last week we were still resorting to like punting it. We couldn't get through the midfield, so we were resorting to punting it over the midfield. But we didn't have Giacomakis to actually collect it and fight for it or hold it up. So it was we were literally just gaining possession away every 15 seconds. It was just madness. I don't know why we persisted in that route of going down that road. Maeda was just totally lost. It wasn't his fault. He was the most industrial player along with Cal Mack that we had. He put in a good showing, but he was chasing shadows all the time because the ball was just getting punted over him into a corner, collected. Rangers were quite comfortable playing it between themselves. They had 30 yards between each defender. It wasn't an issue. But
it was a big win. It was a big win today, right? Because as you touched upon there, obviously losing last week, everyone's a bit down. Nobody more so the match than the players, but at the end, with them bringing the game forward to yesterday, and it's down to 10 men, and they won. It doesn't matter, they won. That shows good character for them after beating us the previous week and getting to the semi. They're on a high. Pressure was on us today. It absolutely was on us today. How would they cope with it? And as you say, I think from the kick-off, first half was excellent. Just couldn't put the ball away, the chances they had. I think Ange said after the match, Kyogo's not 100%. If he was, he's putting more than one goal in the back of the net, which is right. Second half, first 10 minutes, second half, I thought we let them come back into it. A great block by Carter Vickers. Don't know if it was going in, whether Hart was saving it, I don't know, but it certainly hit the target. Then they had a few corner kicks, long throw-ins as they do. We never really played great, made the subs, and then thankfully Jota. And by the way, fair play to Abada. He kind of scraffed it when he just came on. A couple of bad passes, but it's a brilliant run. See his touch and his pass was fantastic. And then I thought Jackie Marcus again, come on, was quite brave, was right in for that, looked off the bar, and Jota was brave again to just dive in. So it was a massive 3 points for us today. Massive 3 points.
But it was also a massive, Ralph. It was a massive team 3 points. Like the subs did make a big difference. I think everybody was crying out for subs. You know what I mean? And then, and thankfully, he started to play subs on the 60-minute mark. You know what I mean? Rather than the 75, 80. You know what I mean? It was, so I think that really, because we were kind of, we were plateaued after such a great first half, and then I think the subs helped us kick back on again.
Well, there was definitely a wee bit of character involved towards the end. Well, you could tell that by Jota flinging himself at the ball for the goal, and then the relief from everybody running off the pitch and celebrating. So you can tell they want it, and it's all new to them as well. For the vast majority of that team, this kind of position's new. A lot of them have never won trophies, titles rather. Some of them won trophies earlier with us. And getting over the line is something that requires a special kind of resilience. And they're at that point now where they're in touching distance. I would, during the game last week, I just kept shouting for them to keep the heat. And maybe that was a part of it, especially with it being a cup tie. But now it's just a matter of turning up for work and doing your job, and everything should be all right.
I did dig in the second half, and that happens sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And it was good that we did. We dug in really well. So just on that, I would give a lot of praise second half to Greg Taylor. You know, my thoughts. You know my thoughts on Starfield Taylor. I think they're good backup players for next season, right? But don't take it away. When somebody plays well, they deserve praise. And I thought the second half he was arguably our best player in the second half, when we had to really defend well, keep it tight, not lose the heat. I thought he was excellent in the second half. So, well done, Greg Taylor.
Well, that was one of my main concerns before the game. I'd put on the chat. I thought we could have won 4-1 today. We could have won 4-1 today if we'd have put the chances away in the first half. But my other big concern was A, injuries, and B, an opportunity for the ref to give somebody a red card before next weekend's game. So I know, especially in the defence, I was just imagining, even if Carter Vickers maybe be an 8 out of 10 and Starfield might be a 6.5 out of 10 in some people's eye, but it's a partnership you didn't want to see disrupted. I didn't want to see anything disrupted at the back. Because again, next week we just don't need to lose. But I really think if we can replicate today's first half form, then I think we could quite easily beat them again 3-0 next week.
We're going to commit the traps quick, right? They're playing against Salzburg, who are a very good team on Thursday night, right? So we're at home on Sunday, was it 12 o'clock kickoff?
Yeah.
We've got to, home 60,000, whatever, we've got to commit the traps quick. I think we will commit the traps quick and just put them under pressure, like we did the game at Celtic Park the other month, right? And that's the game plan. But I've been thinking about it after the match there about, I think he's back, keeper on his back four sort of picks itself, right? I think that's pretty solid. McGregor picks himself. It's just the two mids next to McGregor next week, and then the front three. Will he stick with the three today, or will Jackie Marcus be ready with an extra week? And if Jackie Marcus comes in, who drops out? So it's an interesting one. I think midfield's the interesting one for me next week rather than attack. I'm happy with any 3 of the 4 next week in attack. It's the midfield next to McGregor.
Well, what do you think of Matt O'Reilly today? I thought he was a wee bit lost in the game. He had a lot of nice wee touches, but I think he was a wee bit lost today. And it wasn't necessarily any fault of his. I think it was because every time he turned round, he found this bit of space. Ralston was running into it, or Jota was running into that way, as if he was kind of stuck in that no man's land of 3 into 2 won't go. There wasn't enough space for him to kind of fight, and I just get the impression he was kind of looking about as if, and there was a point in the first half, I think, where he was actually directing folk to say, I think, in the defence, give me the ball. I mean, don't skate in, just skate to me straight away. So I don't know if he's kind of still finding his way into the team. So I've got a feeling he will still go with maybe Rogic against Rangers at home, because he knows Rogic can get a goal against him. But I wouldn't be concerned if it was O'Reilly. I just think he's still finding his feet a wee bit. But remember the 3-0 game, he had a good performance. But we've not that kind of same link up, and I know Juranovic is out. So we've not really got those same not like that inverted full-backs they triangles. We've not done that again since really the Rangers game. So it'll be interesting to think. You know what I mean? Like Ralston had some good crosses today. That was interesting. If you played Giacomakis to the start, I think getting Giacomakis half an hour today was enough to keep him ready to come on as a sub again next week. I think if needed.
He's bullied them. See the last 2 games, he's bullied them, Giacomakis. He has absolutely bullied them. And he gives us that physical strength that we lack a bit at set pieces as well, including defensively, because we're a small team. See with no Beaton coming on or Giacomakis there, we've got 2 centre halves and quite a small, the rest of the team's quite small. So that's another wee thing to think about. But,
right,
because that's one of their strengths, isn't it? One of their strengths is they'll play for the set pieces and the corner kicks, won't they?
But again, like last week, they man-marked Roderick at the game with Bassey. They kind of flooded the midfield and they were physical. So Ange has got to kind of think, they're going to try and get the same thing next week, aren't they? So what do you do?
What's that half yesterday? That'll not be playing, maybe.
Sorry, Ralph, what was that?
Actually, one of the centre halves. Yeah, one of the centre halves was sent off yesterday.
But he's the backup. Matt Balogun's the backup. I think he came on as a sub against us. I think Balogun. So I don't think that was because I was when I turned it on. I just seen the wee red box up the top corner. It indicates someone had been sent off, and I hadn't heard Kent. I hadn't heard any team news then, and I hadn't heard Kent's name. And I was wondering, geez, they've not sent Kent off before next week, have they? But then I heard it was this Balogun. But again, like that game yesterday, Motherwell against 10 men. I don't think I've seen a worse showing for a team in a long, long time. It was absolutely unbelievable how bad, and they weren't even trying. This looked like they weren't even trying. It was mental. But not that we're concerned about that. Right, so next week then. So do you go for Giacomakis, Hector, or do you stick with Kyogo after Kyogo's goal?
I think Ange will do, he'll stick with the same front 3 today, and he'll look to bring on Giacomakis if needed, either at half time or 60 minutes or 70 minutes if needed. His midfield, McGregor obviously, I think he'll start Rogic, because Rogic was the best player on the pitch at Ibrox when beaten 2-1 until he went off after 60. And who the third player is it going to be Hatate? Is it going to be Turnbull? Is it going to be O'Reilly? I think it'll be Hatate.
Nah, I think he'll stick. It's like even like Hatate was a bit erratic in the second half of the day. I thought he'd done well in the first half. Second half he was losing a lot of the balls and kind of ball watching. And so you thought he'd be one of the first ones to go off, but he was realistically the second last one to go off, but like 75 minutes or so, and you're like, how the hell did he stay on that long? So he does seem to be his go-to player, I think.
But it was interesting, see the 3-0 game at Celtic Park, 3-0 game, right? It was at the last 15 minutes, he brought on McCarthy.
Aye.
And McCarthy put a couple of them, didn't he, within, was it Jack? And one other one, he went right through, and I thought, he clearly, Ange can see that and does that. Why does he not maybe just do that more? You know, you scratch your head sometimes, don't you? And just go.
But there's been a few. Remember, like he was playing a few players, a couple of games, and you thought like Scales and that. Oh, here we go. They're going to tick on. Then dropped altogether and disappeared. Welsh the same, and it wasn't as if because it was better. Ideguchi, I don't know if he's injured, but he's been in the squad today, and like kind of like. And again, like McCarthy, you keep on bringing McCarthy. Like, do we need to be 3-0 up before he's McGregor arrest? Something like that? I don't know. You can't complain. We're top of the league with 6 points clear with 4 games to go. Effectively, we win next week, you win the league.
No, but it's observations we can all see. And you scratch your head sometimes and go, is there something I'm missing? Obviously, there is something I'm missing, right? You're right. If we were the top of the league, you would probably complain, think a bit more, but you still think, why does he do that some games and no others? Is it psychology he's using with the players? Is it into their heads at training that if they don't give everything he asks for, then guess what? They're not even on the bench next week. I don't know. We're all kind of guessing today, aren't we?
So like, again,
what he said as to how he looks at what they're doing in training, doesn't he? And he looks at their attitude during the week before he decides who he's going to pick. Even though he seems to be fairly constant with his selection. So I think he looks outside of what they do on match day as well, which might explain why 1 or 2 are not getting picked.
And you can only fit so many into, what's that, squad of 18 in match day, isn't it, for the league games? And you've got probably 22 players to squeeze into 18. So
20, a squad of 20 you get.
Is it 9 subs in match day?
I'm just looking at the squad. So we subs today with Scales. So again, Scales is in because Ralston's on, not meaning Juranovic is out, so to speak. So Scales is in to fill. You've got Scales, Giacomakis, Abada, Turnbull, McCarthy, Roderick, Scott Bain, James Forrest, and Stephen Welsh. That was our subs today. So you allowed 5 from 10 subs.
So there's Julian, Beaton, there's Ideguchi. No, I'm missing. There's Julian, Beaton, Ideguchi, and who else? I don't know.
Juranovic, obviously.
Aye,
there'll be a few, and if you look at that squad, it'll be quite surprising. Again, right? But what about the classic same old Celtic? We should have been 4-0 up at half time, and then we suddenly have that wee scare every time the ball goes into the box. So was that what happened where Joe Hart half punched it, and I just had pictures of that getting back in over the seed, no that way, or the fact that they can't play it out in a wee triangle. But are we always going to have the wee heart fluttering moments? Do you think? Is that the Celtic? Is that the true Celtic way?
Do you know what I noticed today? There was a lot more of Hart flinging it out to one of the wings. Usually, and we've had the Hart flutters, but quite a few times a day, he would spot somebody running and throw it to them, and it was very accurate. So there's maybe been a wee bit of an evolution in that. Maybe he's been encouraged to think what's best to do rather than stick to a pattern.
Another observation was, and I said it just on the wee chat, was County were almost directing the ball with us down our left-hand side defensively. Starfield and Taylor, they seem to be closing the right-hand side of our team and forcing us to go through those two all the time. So if you get a chance to watch back, have a wee look at it. It was really interesting. You know, it was very clear to see that was the tactics, was to force it onto those two as much as possible. But anyway, just an observation.
Yeah, another observation. I quite like the fact that that big Reagan Charles Cook thing, mate. I like him as a player. I know he scored a lot of goals, but it's the fact that he was everywhere today. He reminded me of Giacomakis against Rangers. I mean, like that, he gave away a corner at the end, but he was away back in the bottom corner against Taylor, kind of blocking a cross up against Jota, blocking a cross. Would you consider him to be a potential Celtic squad member for next year? Considering he's proven himself in the league?
Well, we've still got a Jetty or whatever his name, a Yeti. We've still got him.
Aye, sadly Monty Burns isn't on to tell us there's a player in there.
There's a player there, isn't there?
You know what I mean? But I think, I look at big Reagan Charles Cook and I think he's got that kind of Ivan Toney physicality about him. I mean, big, tall, rangy. He can bear the league. I just think he's that kind of a proven quality, as in he could put up with the SPFL. I'm not saying he's a world-class footballer, but I'm just thinking, there's a player in there.
But if you could do it with Ross County, right, and the level of player they've got, and you could be consistently good, score a bundle of goals, and I think, did he come from Arsenal's academy? That guy.
That one's the Watford, isn't it? That guy that came on, he's through the Watford academy.
Right, so they've obviously come through a good level. So I know Angel his own players, but could he fit into a squad of 22, 24 as a backup player? Probably. But Angel, you know what Angel's like? Angel, I think the Asian market's where he'll be bringing the guys in this summer. I don't just mean Japan, I mean like South Korea and other.
That's what he talks about the Iranian. So again, like that a more physical striker to back up Giacomakis and take the rigours of the league.
I would love a Victor Wanyama style player in midfield to free up Callum McGregor. Honestly,
we'll get the chance to see Iran during the World Cup because they're in the same group as England, and should Scotland get through Scotland, and we'll probably have by then we might even have a Celtic player in that team. Because he always mentions the Asian market, but specifically he keeps saying Iran, which makes me think he's got his eye on somebody.
Well, again, I think Ange was part of this whole getting an agency in to get these deals, these Asian deals, or the kind of that side of the world the dealing done. So again, maybe as you say, I'm sure, I dare say they've already got stuff right. And that's why I was always thinking positive about not being in the cup. So again, if we win next week, we effectively win the league, right? So then we go and play Hearts. Touchwood we win next week, or don't lose next week. Then we play Hearts, May the 7th. Sadly, I looked up to see what had happened on May the 7th historically. Nothing much apart from Greece getting its independence. So there's an indicator to bet Big Giacomakis.
And it's a Saturday. It's a Saturday game, isn't it? Saturday.
Saturday, yep. It is a Saturday. Let me just tell you, it is a Saturday at 12 o'clock. Saturday the 7th at 12 o'clock. So again, we could have that league done with 2 weeks to go. So I'm thinking maybe Andy's folk, well, the boys that came in have had a long, hard season playing in Japan, etc. A lot on them. So then you can literally just down tools, away, go and relax. I mean, knowing that you're going to come back at the end of July. I mean, so I'm thinking positive, finish the league early, and then go and have an early recharge. That would be nice.
There'll be no qualifiers to worry about or anything like that. And it'll just be a matter of...
No, possibly. Villarreal are still in the Champions League.
I would love to see... Do you know what? I would love to see them win it, and if it means we have to play a qualifier, it wouldn't be so hard. It wouldn't be so hard.
I don't want to play a qualifier, because your record in qualifiers is not good, let's be honest. I don't think you want to get in that road.
Any other season, Ralph, I would love to see Villarreal win it, but see, because it impacts us, sorry, you know what I mean, because us going straight to the Champions League, I wouldn't put a penny on us winning a qualifier.
Don't forget, the tournament starts a couple of weeks after the final, and the Russians will still be in Ukraine, and they'll not be allowed back in, so it won't make any difference. I think winning the league, and there's nothing, even if Villarreal win it, that'll not make any difference.
You just remember
let Russia compete.
Look up. I don't know if any of you noticed, like the West Ham Chelsea game today.
No.
That was a strange. I feel like it was as if West Ham have rested all their players for during the week for their Europe, because again they're looking at the Champions League, getting through the Champions League via the Europa League. No, that's the idea. So they've kind of rested a lot of players. So that was a bit strange. They get beat 1-0 with Chelsea. But that was a bit strange to see. So again, the last thing we need is Rangers to win the Europa League and go into the Champions League, and us to then have to face a qualifier. That was the last thing we want. So hopefully Villarreal get pumped this week, Rangers get pumped this week, and then we win next week, and then we can win the league officially.
Leipzig are a level above anything they've played. But listen, hold on. I know they beat Dortmund, right? But Dortmund attitude was stinking, and Haaland, who's world class, didn't play. Leipzig zip it about proper high tempo. So that if they get through Leipzig, I will doff my cap to them. I'll be really surprised.
So you heard it here first, folks. If Leipzig get beat with Rangers, Hector will get a I love Giovanni Van Bronckhorst tattoo across his forehead.
I'll do a Mark McGee. I'll run naked through the streets of Dundee. I
was a wee bit upset. I was a wee bit upset when St Johnstone equalised.
So was that.
That would be hilarious. And sadly, I don't know. Do we know if Tam Selleck's son is back on Twitter yet? Has he got a new handball possibly? Because that caused a whole lot of consternation on E-Tims or Stroke Celtic Twitter yesterday at the weekend. Mark McGee, but at least he's making it a wee bit more interesting, Mark McGee.
It's only me that loves it. Sorry, it's only me that loves this crap. See this mentalness. I love it. It's part of Scottish football, isn't it? It's unique and it's madness.
Instead of pure dull.
I love it.
You know what I mean? You want your John Lambie style managers, you know what I mean? Tell him his belly and get him back on.
Dick Campbell.
Dick Campbell. God, that was, to be fair, that was a strange one on Friday, but Kilmarnock. Because I work with a guy that's a Kilmarnock fan. I've got family, like kind of family was with last week there. Kilmarnock fans doing that way. And then with one of the guys I worked, another guy, good pal, he's Kilmarnock fan. And then Liam McAvaney on Twitter, we're pals on Twitter, he's doing New Zealand, he's a big Kilmarnock fan. So you're feeling good for them, but then you remember, it's Kilmarnock. We don't like Kilmarnock.
It's the pitch more than anything else into that pitch. Look at that, by the way, Ross County.
Kilmarnock's owners, no, remember they used to they wouldn't give half a stand and all that shit, but they would know what I mean?
Nah. Michael Johnson was the old, he's not there anymore, he was the old director who stuck up for Rangers.
I remember.
Because he's a Rangers supporter. But look at Ross County's pitch today, right? That pitch was beautiful, like a bowling green. What have they got? An average fan base of 2,000, if you're lucky, right? Kawana, probably an average fan base about 3 times that, 6, 7, 8,000. They should have a grass pitch, and there's no excuses for that to count SPL. Yeah,
but how do you think Ross County's pitch measures up against the Eriskay pitch, Hector?
Oh, the Eriskay pitch is out of this world, Desi. The playing surface itself is probably like the old Fir Park, Used to aye.
Bucket of sand all day.
It's like that, but it doesn't have thick moist water and white sandy beaches round 3/4 of the pitch, you know. So this doesn't.
Nice.
Seattle, and it covered Eriskay and the football team, and it looked fantastic. And since we went up there, how do we look to see how far away it is from here? You know, for a wee, because we're going to get a wee break over the next month or so, and it's 11 hours 55 minutes for here, which might be a wee bit too much for the Ducks.
You get the flight to Barra, 45 minutes to Glasgow.
Well, he's talking about taking the Amazon van up.
Oh, right. I've warned them about you already, Ralph. I've warned them. This strange guy turns up your doorstep. Just ignore him.
If anybody from the Barra, Eriskay regions listening, just be aware, Ralph is contemplating maybe retiring up to that part of the selling up that big Stoke mansion, which we can see behind them here, and selling up and moving up to. Is that the Outer Hebrides you said, Hector?
It's the Outer Hebrides. By the way, it's very briefly. So the Glasgow one's 45 minutes, but see, take your car. I think Oban or Mallaig goes over there. Yeah. It's about 4 hours, I think, about 4.5 hours in the ferry. So it's up to you, but I think it's great. I think it's fabulous.
Is that what does it? Because you drive to Glasgow, and I watched the route, and it was up through Oban. So then the ferry will be just after Oban, and that'll be, it's a straight line, so it can't be around the weekend.
So welcome to the Outer Hebrides Tourist podcast today, hosted by E-Tips.
Yeah, exactly. Next week, Monty Burns tells us all about his trip to Portugal. Sadly, he can't be with us. He's in Portugal, or possibly at a christening, one of the both. So, okay, so that was today. So it was a beautiful, professional 2-0 win. Good to see Jota winning. I think that's 11 assists and 11 goals for Jota this season. And this comes in the week where Celtic were asking people to vote for a player of the year. So this is a wee roundup. Who currently would be your player of the year, Hector?
Well, by a mile, Callum McGregor. A mile.
Is that for performances on the pitch, or just overall, as in Celtic of the year? You know what I mean?
No. He's the man. He's running that midfield on his own at times. Too many guys falling out in midfield. I just think you take him out of your team, be a struggle how we play. So he leads by example, but I think he's just a really talented player and our most important player, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. And that was one of the. Somebody says, I know we did have great subs today, but we have good subs in an overall squad sense. But when you looked in the spine of the team, Ralph, for instance, we only really had a direct placement for the centre forward today. Like everybody else, we don't have a good backup to Hart. I don't think Bain's never going to be a quality goalkeeper, is he? We've not got another good centre half. Welsh is all right, but he's not a Cameron Carter-Vickers. But we've got no one who's anywhere near Callum McGregor's ability or sense of playing that role. And Hector's mentioned maybe we should give McCarthy a chance now and again just to be in there, you know what I mean, and get if we ever need it, because if McGregor got injured, I don't know what we would do really. And now your pal Beaton's injured too. What about you, Ralph? Who would be your player of the year then? You can supplement McGregor. Who else? Who would be in your shortlist?
Greg Taylor, because time and time again he's turned in great performances. He gets a lot of stick. He is still very much learning his trade, and he's kept his place in the team. Something like that. I think he's a much improved player from the beginning of the season.
And he scores goals.
He's never played the year. Never play the year.
Listen, it's all about it's who Keevans would say, Hector. It's all about opinions.
What his opinion doesn't count, no, you, Ralph.
But listen, what the listeners don't know is we're sitting watching Raoul drinking cider on black currant here, you know what I mean? So that is starting to affect them in that Stoke sunshine. I'm just trying to think, who would I go, like, Abada has had a great...
Well, he's young player of the year, isn't he? He's going to win that easily enough, isn't he?
What age is Jota compared to him? What age is Jota? Is he...
I don't know. 20s. A few years older.
Does he qualify? I'm wondering, would you go for Jota before Abada?
Carter Vickers, I think, after McGregor's the best player. He's been brilliant this season.
I don't think I bow to anyone in my praise of Carter Vickers. I was championing him way at the start of the season when people like yourself, Hector, this couldn't have the vision to see it.
Oh, not me with Carter Vickers. It's the guy next to him. I think you'll get it.
But I think it'll be interesting to see like, it would be great. See if Celtic could just get that deal over the line and announce Carter Vickers. I mean, like, imagine the joy in Celtic, because again, he's that rock. He's your big Roy Aitken. He's your rock that you can just build. I mean, you can depend on. He'll give you a 7 out of 10 every game at the very least. Hardly ever makes a mistake. You know what I mean? And that's what we need in a central defender, isn't it? And we're always crying out for a defender like that. It's lovely to have your big Van Dijks and your Juliennes, but they're fragile. We just need somebody who can win the ball and get it to somebody next to him. You know what I mean? That's it. So if he won it, that would be fine with me. But I just hope he's not one of the guys that win it and then leave. No, that way. That would be a thing. So I think the chance that it would be McGregor. And it'll be interesting to see who gets nominated overall, i.e. the Scottish awards. Scottish writers and the SP, the actual players' own awards. That'll be interesting to see what happens there.
I think if Hyogo never had his injury, he would have stood a chance. But he was out for the best part of 4 months, which kind of rules him out. Otherwise, I think he'd be right up there, wouldn't he, for Player of the Year.
I thought, it's right, especially I thought maybe he would have maybe taken the rest of the games to get up to speed and then be ready for next season. But when you saw that ahead of the day, that first 20 minutes a day, and some of the interaction with Maeda was fantastic. Like there was one bit they ran for the halfway line, passed it to each other 4 times, and then just kind of the ball went a wee bit behind Maeda, and it was just unlimited. I mean, it was a brilliant goal. So again, it would be interesting to see them doing that in the next couple of games if they get time. But if we win the league, I'd be quite happy to just play anybody you like, and just let them all go on holiday and go to Dubai and sit and have a pint at the pool. Just like our friend Neil Lennon, you know what I mean? So that's that. So there we go. So next week, are we confident for next week? Round up, last question. Are we confident for next week? Do we care? Are we wanting to go and win brilliantly, or do we just want to no lose? I'm always the don't lose the game guy. What do you think?
I think we're at that point now where we're, let's say, in touching distance. Just don't lose. We get plenty of time to win it. I'd rather win it straight away. I'd rather win it in style. But as long as we win it, I really don't care how.
See, well, I was thinking this earlier. I was thinking, well, see if you don't lose next week, does it not make any difference? Basically, as long as we don't lose next week, that means we just still win it against Hearts, because we'll still be 6 clear. We beat Hearts, we'll be 9. We'd still be
the goal difference. So no officially, but they're not going to really close the gap, but mathematically,
so goal difference. The next one.
Ange just won't play for a draw. So we know that, right? It's no somebody who's going to come in and just say, let's just step back a bit. He's just going to play the way he plays. So I've got to always say it every time. Caveats for referees. As long as there's nobody sent off, I think we'll win. I think we'll win maybe 2-1 or 3-1 next week.
Well, that'll be so. Fingers crossed. I'll go for a 2-0. I think if we attack them, we can beat them. And I think Kyogo's had a good 60 minutes a day. Giacomakis got a good fit. Just like highlighting the fact Giacomakis helped make that second goal. I mean, like actually attacking the ball and stuff. And there's a cracking bit. See if you see the highlights. Watch Giacomakis when Jota scores it. He's like, he reminds me of Sean Maloney when Larson scored his 50th goal. You see him like kind of poor punch in the air. No, as if like he's up straight away where the ball went, and Jota's right on the end of it, and Giacomakis is in rapture at the ball getting in the net. And that's what you want to see for all your players, I mean. But no, so I'm just looking there. So it could be Hearts the following week, the 7th. If we win next week, that means wrap up against Hearts. Possibly, as long as we don't lose next week, you've got Hearts, and then it's Dundee United on the 11th midweek. So we've had a good wee midweek experience up there before, the Tommy Burns win, so to speak, so that'll be interesting. We'll wait and see, but we can revisit the podcast near the time. We'll maybe come back on next week post the Rangers game to discuss how much I either enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. Alrighty, any last thoughts on today, Ralph? You were a wee bit pessimistic, I think, before the game. Are you feeling a wee bit more relieved? Are you feeling a wee bit less anxious?
Because I think this was the most difficult game we had after the split. They've done very well.
I don't think Ross County had been beat in so many games. I think they had a cracking record.
Yeah, I think that, I read somewhere, I'm not sure if it's right, but over the last few months they got the third highest points total, and there was always a danger of dropping something up there. There always is in that part of the world. But they came through it, and it was, like I said, professional, job done. And we've got 3 home games to come. We really would be some collapse if we didn't win it now.
Yeah. Okay, we'll think positive. Hector, any final menu recommendations for anyone going to the bar? Would you go for the scallop pakora? What would you go for?
Well, scallops were actually hand caught that morning.
Oh, lovely, yeah.
That morning, right.
And yourself, you and the missus?
And the homemade steak pie. It was like a desperate Dan pie. One of the ones.
Big cow pie with a horse. Nice.
2:30 to eat it, and I'm again it. So that was a big pie, right?
Lovely. You've heard it here first, folks. Celtic potential title victory and get a steak pie next time you're in Eriskay.
It's the politician pub. I'm politician in Eriskay.
There you go. That's I highly recommend. Okay, folks. Again, thanks very much for listening. Please subscribe and like where possible. Tell your friends if you like the podcast, and if there's anything you don't like, please let Ralph know at his daily eTims diary on www.etims.net. As I say, we'll probably join you again after the Rangers game if it's controversial and if we've got much to say. Alright, thanks again for listening. Just left for me to say thank you to Hector and Ralph. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Desi. Cheers, guys.
Okay, folks, thanks very much. Good night.